Hey everybody, thank you for joining. For any questions, please use the chat function on the menu and we'll try to answer as many as we can of them by the end. So throughout the presentation, first of all, you'll be hearing from the following people. We've got our SVP of Strategy, Ophir Reshef. We've got Kfouri, who is our Enterprise Client Success Manager, and Josh Enzer, who is our VP of Product Marketing. Nice to meet you. I should have said, my name is Jamie Clohesy. I'm the Managing Director for Yotpo UK. So throughout this presentation, we'll cover trends and themes that we're seeing in the shopper behavior and how people are responding. We'll look at product announcements and projects we've accelerated to better support you. And we'll close out with some resources we've developed and a Q&A to answer any questions you might have. So starting off with, it will be our SVP of Strategy, Ophir Reshef. Over to you, Ophir.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for attending. We really appreciate everyone taking the time to be here. I want to start by saying that we understand that it's a difficult and unprecedented time for everyone here. And we really are in awe of each of you, continuing to stay strong, to find new ways to thrive in these difficult times, and to deepen the relationship that you have with your customers. Despite the difficulties in these difficult times, today I'm mostly going to talk about opportunities, because I know everyone here is thinking, how do I come out stronger from this? And we hope we can help you with that a little bit. So before I start, I also wanted to mention that we as Yotpo, we have also adjusted our business in an effort to support you and your businesses. We've taken the opportunity to rethink how every function in our organization can evolve to better support you, not just for this uncertain time, but also as we look forward to the new state of e-commerce. We want to make sure that we all come out stronger than ever before. So let's start talking about the state of e-commerce, and maybe we'll start with one highlight. We turn on to the next slide, which is COVID broke Amazon. Amazon had to turn down demand because they weren't able to fulfill it. That's quite an amazing event. And in a recent consumer survey, we heard that 65% of consumers said that they couldn't get everything they need from Amazon right now. And it creates a huge opportunity for brands to fill the gap. Another survey confirms this by indicating that 79% of consumers will turn to less familiar brands as they can't buy everything wherever they used to buy it before. Not only are consumers changing who they buy from, but they also change how they buy and how they make purchase decisions. Over a third of consumers are paying more attention to marketing messages from brands, whether it's email, SMS, social ads, or whatever channel they're delivering on. Time spent on mobile phones has increased to 30% during COVID, with text messaging up 50%, becoming the main and the most effective way for brands to communicate with customers right now. New demographics are turning into e-commerce, and I'll talk about it in a couple of slides. And not only that, but CPCs have declined about 25% on social, making it cheaper than before to try to reach new audiences. The brands that are capitalizing on this opportunity do not only invest in customer acquisition, but also in creating a differentiated and superior experience and building deep relationship with their customers. This way, once customers try out buying directly from the brand, they will never go back. On top of all these changes, Google has decided to become more aggressive, fighting over online product discovery. We'll move on to the next slide. And they decided to make a big change. Now they offer all merchants to sell on Google Shopping for free. As a result, their product catalog will increase dramatically, and it will likely gain traction with more consumers as a destination where they discover products online. The flip side is that Google Shopping is now becoming more competitive. It's just harder to get your products show up in a prominent place there. Thankfully, our partnership with Google gives you an advantage. By using the reviews and the user-generated content on Google Shopping, it lets you stand out and have more customers discover your products on Google Shopping. We will share resources after the town hall detailing more about the announcement, about our partnership with Google, how brands can leverage Yotpo to stand out and make the most out of their Google Shopping presence. So let's talk a little bit more about the new demographics that I mentioned. So basically, COVID is forcing new demographics to go into e-commerce for the first time. This is going to expand the e-commerce market size. It is also going to accelerate the growth trajectory of e-commerce for what we believe is going to be for many years to come, during the recovery, but also beyond it. So some more details on the demographics. One is we see there is older demographics. So people who haven't used e-commerce before, they are now learning for the first time about the benefits and the convenience of shopping online, and they will probably continue to do so. Then people in rural areas, we see that they are making up a larger share of e-commerce purchases than they have ever before. In addition to that, research from McKinsey shows that many customers have switched their go-to brands and retailers due to COVID-19. And now it seems like more than half of those consumers actually plan to maintain these new choices even when COVID-19 is over. So that's great news in terms of brands' ability to acquire new customers. With these trends, combined with the lower cost of acquisition, there is really a big opportunity to reach and serve new audiences. The way the best brands respond is by first identifying those new audiences that are a good fit for them but were previously underserved. Then it's about adjusting the marketing spend to acquire them. And once customer acquisition proves effective, then it's about adjusting the rest of the business to better serve these new audiences and win them for the long term. So we talked about new audiences, and I think definitely one prominent change that was driven and accelerated by COVID is the whole brick and mortar and omni-channel. So prior to COVID, we've seen two strong trends when it comes to omni-channel. First, the digitally native brands opening brick and mortar stores, and they were doing that at really unprecedented rates, very successfully, and they were really proving out that what people call the apocalypse of retail is not because customers are not interested to buy in a physical store on high street. It's really because the expectations of customers have changed. They're now looking for a different kind of experience. And those digitally first brands who have a better relationship, better data, better knowledge of their customer expectations, and are able to meet them, are also successful when it comes to high street and brick and mortar. The other strong trend we've seen is offline businesses massively investing in building out and accelerating the growth of their online direct-to-consumer sales. Over 40% of our customers in total operate a brick and mortar store in addition to the online store. Now, the bad news is that not only have brick and mortar stores been suffering over the last couple of months due to the pandemic, but it also seems like there is going to be some lasting effect. According to surveys, 35% of consumers say they will not be going to the mall as often post-COVID-19. The good news, however, is that offering an omni-channel shopping experience is actually a big competitive advantage even today in the COVID-19 times. Buying online for in-store pickup has seen 39% user growth, with 62% of those buyers expecting to continue this behavior post-COVID. Brands that offer this option of buy online pickup in the store grow faster than brands who don't, and new models for stores are emerging all the time and proving effective. For example, curbside pickup grew rapidly from 2% only to 20% adoption among stores at the end of February. So what does it mean for brands? Brands with brick and mortar store, you have to heavily invest in the online. Not only invest in online like the digitally native brands do, but also leverage your competitive advantage of buy online, pick up store, and also in omni-channel commerce in general. For online brands, it's probably not a priority in 2020 to invest in brick and mortar. However, as the model of the stores evolves, the rental prices go down, the traffic to high street comes back, I would say there is a definite chance that it could become an interesting opportunity sooner than some people. So let's talk about what's next. And when we're thinking about what's next, we're looking first at China, because China is a few months ahead of everybody else, basically, in the recovery. And the data and information that we see about business reopenings there and the impact that it has on brands can really teach us what's going to happen in the UK over the next few months. And it's important to understand, first of all, that even as life gets back to the new normal, many of the trends that were started by COVID will not reverse. On the contrary, they're here to stay with us for the long haul. So for e-commerce in general, that's great news. It just means more growth for a longer period of time. A couple of supporting evidence that we see comes from China's sales of Nike and Adidas. Not only did e-commerce grow 30 to 35% while retail stores were closed, it has also stayed at these higher levels even when these stores have reopened. For brick and mortar stores, there is still a huge opportunity despite the challenges. So Shopify reports that brick and mortar stores using Shopify point of sale were already able to recuperate 92% of their lost offline sales by moving them online. The omni-channel trend is becoming so strong that Nike's CEO said that they stopped even looking at offline and online as distinct channels anymore. So clearly, omni-channel is the future. So let's summarize. We think today is a great opportunity to invest, and that's of course as long as you can afford it. Looking 5 years from now, the leading brands that will have been created by then are the ones that are now making smart and aggressive investments to capitalize on the unique opportunities that are available today. There are new audiences to be acquired, and experimenting with new customer acquisition will not be as costly as in the past. Customers are engaging in new ways, with focus on mobile and messaging, and you need to adjust and engage customers the way they choose. You need to build unique and differentiated purchase experiences to become the choice of customers shifting to a new e-commerce destination, with a focus on omnichannel for those brands who have offline presence. And last, you need to make sure these newly acquired customers turn into long-term loyalists and advocates by investing in customer loyalty, engagement, and communication. All of this said, we understand this period looks very different for each of our customers and each different store. And it's not a one size fits all for sure. And what we are doing and what we're going to do is to double down on helping each customer individually with their own marketing strategy. We're also adjusting ourselves to the new world. And we always love feedback from you on how we can do even better supporting your business through this period and when it's over. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ophir. So in the next section of this town hall, we're going to take a deeper look at some of the trends we've been seeing in the last couple of months. And we'll also be sharing some strategies and ideas that can help you navigate the current situation. So we're going to be kicking off with health and beauty, which, if you are in this sector or if you've been reading the news, you know that health and beauty was one of the hardest hit sectors at the onset of the pandemic, but it's also been a sector that has responded with a really astonishing amount of creativity and agility. So just to put things into context, in most major beauty industry markets, in-store shopping accounts for about 80 to 85% of purchases prior to COVID-19, also according to a recent report from McKinsey. So, from the very beginning, 30% of opportunities for sales have vanished because, a lot of countries, including in the UK, a lot of big retailers are closed, and also people are not traveling. They don't have these opportunities to buy at airports or when they're away. And also consumer behavior is changing. So people are staying at home. Sales of cosmetics and fragrances have dropped as a result. But other product lines such as skincare, hair care, and bath and body products are actually picking up because of some trends of self-care and pampering that were coming before even COVID kicked off. There's a really interesting statistic in France, that luxury soap sales have gone up by 800% from February to March. And this is just an indication of how consumers are still out there wanting to buy, but their interests and preferences have changed slightly. So the first trend on this slide is that brands are trying to find new ways of mimic the in-store experience. So obviously, brands are trying to find new ways to engage with customers on a one-to-one basis and to stimulate the in-store experience that a person would have when they had the opportunity to physically touch or try a product. And brands are seeing success with allowing users to book direct consultations or appointments with their staff. So Deciem, for example, they are offering virtual consultations with their customers so they can repurpose their 300 plus retail staff. And they're using standard technology that a lot of brands already have access to. So they're using chat. You can go to the website, speak to an agent straight away, either through video or chat, and go through a quick consultation that ends up leading to product recommendations. And the really nice thing about this is that you can actually go back to the site at a later day and your history shows up. So you can continue to engage with the branding that way. Another example is Kiehl's Cosmetics, which is part of L'Oreal. They are repurposing what they call their Healthy Skin Club, which was a way to give consultation to clients in their physical stores, now also taking that online. So I guess the takeaway for brands there is to use new or existing channels to help customers feel the in-store experience, and they can use standard tools that they already have, or they can leverage new tools and think creatively about what else is out there. I saw brands, for example, using Slack, which offers a free package. There's a brand called Routine Vitamins that is actually now engaging with customers using Slack to provide knowledge and advice on immunity and vitamins, for example. And overall, leverage your existing communities of beauty experts or influencers to do online consultations. They can use Instagram Live, they can use hotlines to help customers feel connected and part of the community, and to give a direct line to the brand. The second point there is that TikTok is becoming a new marketing channel. I have personally been using TikTok much more. And if you've been reading, papers recently, you would see that a few articles have dubbed TikTok the sensation of the pandemic. In the US in particular, where TikTok publishes a lot of stats, their user base has almost doubled in a month, which is really, really impressive. And the number of downloads have also spiked. TikTok is interesting because it's a new emerging channel that doesn't require a lot of budget. So a lot of the content there is organic, and brands are finding a new way of engaging with their audiences in that way. A nice example of how that's happening came from e.l.f. Cosmetics. They have created a campaign to promote social distancing and hand washing called Eyes, Lips, Face Safe. And they've released a soundtrack to that, and you can record your own video using that soundtrack. And they've had around 10,000 submissions already. They got a lot of traction from influencers, and there are some really, really interesting creative videos there. I would encourage you to check that out. So that the action there is to really use existing or new channels to engage with your customers, allocate time and energy to invest in those channels, and to leverage your network of influencers or brand champions to continue to be in touch with your consumer base. Also, brands are giving back to their communities. A nice example there is Il Maquillage. They are hiring makeup artists and beauty experts to teach lessons, and they're recording those lessons and making them available to their customer base for free. And other brands are doing similar things, providing digital masterclasses via Instagram and so on. So you can definitely find a cause that your brand aligns with, and find ways to give back to the community and show the human side of your brand. So now we're going to move on to talk about sports and outdoors, which is our next vertical that we're going to be looking at. In this particular sector, brands are engaging customers in new ways too. Obviously, they're finding ways of stimulating people to work out from home or get outdoors and staying in shape, while all of us adjust to new realities and routines. So K2, for example, their sponsored athletes are releasing a variety of content, including films and exercise routines that people can do at home. And in that way, people still engaged with the brand, and the brand remains top of mind. So maintaining that connection with your customer through existing or new content is quite important. And in this sector, there's space to be creative, right? So a lot of brands can use Strava, for example, creating challenges or clubs and keeping people motivated and connected to the brand that way, or simply offering new educational material, how to stay fit at home, how to find new ways of exercise when we don't have the same freedom of movement as before. There is also a really big trend that is quite obvious, regardless of where you are, of brands trying to support their community and give back. So Gymshark, which I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with, they have offered a fee for personal trainers that have found themselves out of work to co-host sessions on Facebook Live. And they have also ran a really, really successful hashtag campaign called Sweaty Selfie, encouraging people to post pictures of themselves after workouts. and make a small donation. That donation was matched by the brand, and they've managed to raise over $200,000 in a few weeks. Another nice example there is Life for Me, or Leaform, depending on how you say it, the yoga mat company. They've also decided to donate profits from a whole month of sales to yoga teachers and studios that have been affected by COVID-19. The other trend that is interesting there is a few brands in the fitness space that run subscription models, or they have products behind paywalls. They have temporarily removed those barriers for 90 days or so. One Peloton is an example of that. And the brilliance of that strategy is that you can actually use that exercise as a lead generation activity. So you're giving something for free now, but in the post-COVID-19 period, you'll be able to reap the benefits of having engaged a lot of these customers during a tough time. And there would definitely be, payback. So now we're going to move on to talk about home and electronics. This is an interesting sector because it's a sector that typically has higher AOVs, when you're buying a big piece of furniture or a new TV. So the sales cycle tends to be a little bit longer. So it's natural that customers are feeling slightly more anxious now to make commitments, given all the uncertainty that there is. So there's a big trend in adopting Klarna or Afterpay or other flexible payment providers. And Klarna has released some data recently in the US showing that they've seen a lot of activity in the specialty home furnishings sector, for example, and also furniture specifically alone. They saw like 60% increase in activity in April. And the action there is like straightforward. Customers are feeling the impact of COVID-19, so they are seeking for more flexible and relevant ways of making purchases. And if you can help customers ease the upfront financial burden of making those commitments by promoting either the existing payment providers you already have or looking at new ways of incorporating this into your purchase process, that's definitely a trend that we've been seeing. And the other small detail you can do there is simply promote your refunds and returns policy very upfront in the beginning of the purchase process, and be very transparent about how you deal with those things to reassure people that they are making the right decision. The other trend that we've been seeing in home and electronics is actually brands diversifying their product assortment. So retailers are starting to assess what people need at the moment, and the focus has shifted a bit. I know the obvious focus now is home office or products for kids at home or even homeschooling. So if you have those items in your catalog, considering perhaps changing the organization of your products from categories to themes and putting those products more upfront can help customers actually navigate these difficult times. And before this town hall, I actually went to Google Trends and I did a quick search for hobbies at home in the UK, and I saw that searches for that specific combination of keywords has more than doubled in March versus February. So there's a lot to be said about what people are looking for and what you should be showing to customers at this time. So the action item for brands is pretty simple. You don't have to necessarily launch a new project or make a new big investment. You should just think creatively about how you organize your content and what you're showing to consumers based on what they need and want at this time. The next point is, brands are creating new channels for virtual design services. This really applies to people that are still having to move homes. I personally have two friends that have had to move homes during COVID-19, and they are now trying to find new ways of buying furniture and, making choices without having the access that they had before. So a lot of brands are offering virtual facilities. So they either already have the technology on their website, or they're actually simply making appointments with customers and letting them see the showroom one-to-one. So a sales representative would go around and show them and have a conversation with them. But more simply, just featuring a lot of user-generated content and galleries to show how those products feel in reality, right? So a lot of people would want to have a better sense of touch and feel of those products, and emphasizing now, like doubling down on UGC would really help brands, customers actually, to get a better sense of how those products would meet their requirements. And there's a whole other list of items that you could look at, including augmented reality, if it's something you've already done before, or just setting up like chatbots or new channels that your customers can leverage to really feel reassured when they're making a purchase. Cool, we're gonna wrap up talking about fashion, which is obviously a vertical that changes incredibly fast. And there was a lot of disruption in this vertical because of COVID-19. A lot of the global brands have seen big impacts because of delaying shipments from China. A lot of the manufacturing happens in Asia. So they weren't necessarily best positioned to meet customers. So there was, and there is still a trend from globalization to regionalization there, where local brands now have an opportunity to stand out. So homegrown brands that are not facing necessarily the same challenges can find themselves, an opportunity in this gap. And the lack of omni-channel approach for some brands have also taken them by surprise. So clothing giant Primark, which is a huge fast fashion retailer in Europe, they went from selling $800 million each month to literally zero when the lockdown took place. And that is obviously because they have a lack of e-commerce capabilities. And this really shows that this is a watershed moment for the industry, and they should really double down on e-commerce. And that brings me to my first point. Brands are finding new ways of connecting and staying connected with their consumer base. And while we all stay at home now, our looks have changed. I personally feel that we're not all dressing the same, we're using different items. So brands should be tuned and move fast when it comes to adapting what they push and what they show to shoppers. And there are a few things you can do there. You can generate fresh content on your site that is relevant to that, and you can also show how people should be give inspiration ideas to people on what they should be dressing and wearing during these times. Adjusting their supply chains to manufacture masks. A lot of brands have actually done other things in addition to masks. Brands that had the capability to help the health service have managed to generate a positive image in this time and actually align their values and inspire their communities with their actions. And I think there are numerous examples of that in the UK and across Europe. And lastly, there is obviously the disruption in the fashion calendar and how brands are actually used to going to market. So for one thing, image, it's photo shoots are not taking place anymore. Studios are closed. It takes a lot of people to actually put together a photo studio that wouldn't be practical with social distancing. So encouraging your consumers to submit photos of them wearing your products and making their front and center in your website can really, really help. There's a nice example of a jewelry brand, Olive & Piper. They have revamped their homepage to actually promote a hashtag that they call ONP at home, and they are showing how people are staying at home but still dressing up and taking care of themselves, which is a really nice initiative and an idea to take away. And to finish it off, there's obviously been a disruption in the fashion calendar. Summer collections are typically supposed to be delivered at this time, around April and May, but they have been canceled because stores remain closed. And brands are even now evaluating what will happen to fall collections, which are typically delivered in July and August. So I think in this regard, a reset or a few brands are probably doing some soul searching and trying to understand what consumers need today, because they're obviously only buying what they need for now. No one is buying ahead of a big holiday or ahead of a big wedding or event. So the timelines have shifted a bit. So there's definitely a trend towards probably promoting something that makes more sense to now rather than promoting something according to the regular fashion calendar. So, making all these small adjustments and, I'm pretty sure that there are variations depending on where you are in which market you operate, but these are high-level trends, and I'm sure that you can take away some of these ideas and apply to your own reality, and this will help you navigate these current times. So now I want to pass it over to Josh for a few awesome product announcements.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so yeah, again, I'm Josh. I lead what we call our product marketing efforts here at Yotpo, and yeah, we've been working hard in particular over the past few months. Once we realized the impact that COVID would have on a lot of the brands that we work with, to really adjust what we're doing from a product perspective to make sure that everything we're doing is as high impact as quickly as possible. So I think we've made some really great progress in the past couple months, and yeah, I'll talk about a couple of those things. So the first one that we're really excited about is SMS. So for those of you who are familiar, we acquired a great platform based in the EU actually, called SMS Bump back in February. And I think for our customers right now during these very interesting COVID times, there are a couple of reasons why we're particularly excited about SMS marketing. So the first is that consumers are, for many consumers who are at home, right? They're on their mobile phones more than they ever have been. So we have a stat that says there's an estimated 30% increase in the time that people are spending just on their mobiles on a day-to-day basis. We did a survey of end consumers as well, and those consumers told us that 57% of them are shopping online more than they've ever been. And so what we really see there is people are not only using their phones for TikTok and social and all these other types of mechanisms, but they're shopping as well. And so in our own SMS data, we see this. So the metric that we look at is average revenue per message. So how much are all of the brands who are using SMS Bump, how much revenue are they actually earning on a per send basis? And we've seen that revenue percent increase 37% just compared to the beginning of the year. So in April, the average message was making 37% more than it was compared to January or February. So we can see that there's this incredible opportunity for SMS right now. But on top of that, we also realized that many of you in this discussion on this town hall are customers of our reviews product as well. And so one thing that we think is really exciting, and one of the first things that we did as we began the merger between the two companies, was to make sure that you have the ability to not only send your review requests via email, but now via SMS as well. And so we're doing more to promote this publicly tomorrow, so everybody in this discussion gets a bit of a sneak peek. But the really exciting number that we saw from our initial beta users was that compared to a review request via email, our review requests when sent via SMS are converting at a 66% better rate. In other words, customers who receive that review request via SMS are completing reviews at a 66% higher rate. And I think we all know the power of getting more reviews on our conversion rates and on our ability to get feedback on each of our products. And so I just think for both of these reasons, SMS is such an exciting opportunity for many of our customers today. And so we stepped back recently and we thought, well, what can we do? Really the goal here should be, how can we put SMS in the hands of as many of our customers as possible? Because clearly it means that they're going to get more reviews. Not only are they going to get more reviews, but any of these other types of marketing messages that they're going to try sending via SMS are going to be more impactful now than they were even a few months ago. And so what we decided was we want to really lower the bar to get started. And so we're running a We're running a promotion right now, which I hope is impactful for many of you. But in order to lower that bar, we've essentially waived our monthly fees for SMS for all of the small businesses out there for a full year. So you'll have 12 months with no package fees to start sending text messages, and then heavily discounting fees on some of our more advanced packages for some of the higher volume brands out there. So really want to make it as easy as possible to get started, as easy as possible to start sending those review requests via SMS, start experimenting with other types of marketing messages which are impactful for your consumers. But just great results on SMS, and would very, very much encourage you to reach out to your CSMs to learn more about that. All right, so on the next slide here, so we also very recently introduced something called Yotpo membership, and I think in general right now is clearly a very turbulent time in e-commerce, and in many ways we see some companies who are struggling to keep up with their orders, especially those who are sellers of some of these more essential goods. And then we know that in general, as more and more shoppers continue to experiment with purchasing online, some stores are starting to do a little bit better today than maybe they were back in March. But at the end of the day, I think we realize and we want to be really empathetic to the fact that we do have some of our customer base who is struggling, right? So based on our data, we've seen that about 10% of our customers have experienced a greater than 50% drop in orders compared to the same time period last year. So we looked at 50% drop as, that's when some of these brands are going to have trouble covering their fixed costs. That's when things are going to start getting really difficult. And so we do hope that as things get back to normal, order volumes start to recover a little bit. And we hope this is temporary. But what we realize is that we have an opportunity to help a lot of our customers find a way to bridge the gap. And the best way to bridge the gap is with a bit of a bump in cash flow in the short term. And so we introduced this Yotpo membership program, and so Yotpo membership is essentially a great way to offer your customers some maybe let's call them once in a lifetime benefits, amazing discounts, money back when they spend a certain amount, all sorts of other benefits, and in exchange ask them to sign up for an annual membership. And so the benefit of that annual membership is, of course, they are delivering excuse me, more cash to your business sooner than they otherwise would have. So for those businesses that are struggling a little bit, this can really make a big difference for a lot of them. And for some of our brands who are running this program today, we have seen really, really nice impact. And so we're hoping that it can be an incredible asset for the brands who are struggling again a little bit and who choose to make use of it. Also, just we're proud of this one internally as well, right? When we realized that this was such a potential high priority, or when we realized that this had the potential to become such a high priority, this went from conception to launch in just about 3 weeks. So I think a great testament to how we've adjusted to try to do everything we can for our merchants. All right. And then the last piece that we want to talk about here is, so I think Ophir talked a lot on his session today about what's going on and how the world is changing. And one thing that we're also trying to be very mindful of is what the future looks like. And so in the future, right, we don't believe that stores are going to go away by any means. We do believe that maybe customers will prefer to buy maybe a little bit more online than they used to in store, but we believe really strongly in this future of this very combined in-store and online experience for the customer, and we believe in making that experience as rich and as seamless as possible. And so what we've done on the loyalty side is accelerate a couple of features actually designed to help our merchants who have stores today to help them as their stores begin to reopen. One interesting data point we have is that about 40% of our customers operate their own brick and mortar stores as well as their e-commerce stores, and about 60% of our customers sell through some sort of third-party retailer, right? So they wholesale products into a larger brick and mortar retailer. And so what we realize is that we don't just have an opportunity to help on the e-commerce side, but we also can help with their recovery. So these will be released in the coming weeks. But these are essentially solutions for each type of offline seller. So if you own your own brick and mortar stores, we're introducing a great point of sale solution, very seamless experience for the customer. I think one thing that really sticks out in my mind is about a month, maybe a month and a half ago, Nike released their quarterly earnings. And what Nike's CEO really observed is that as their stores start to reopen in China, customers really don't distinguish between, well, I have one experience online and another experience offline. They want to experience Nike, and they want that experience to be really consistent and seamless. And so what we've designed is something that will really allow the customer, when they're participating in loyalty, to enjoy this very similarly seamless experience between channels. And then on the receipt scanning side, this will be a solution for those of you who sell through third-party retailers. Great way to capture some additional data about your customers, allow those customers who maybe don't buy from you directly to still participate in your loyalty program. And overall, we want to be very mindful of all of the different channels in which our merchants are selling today, and really support this very omni-channel type of shopping experience. All right, so those are some of the big announcements and upcoming product releases on our side. So going to turn it back over to Jamie now to talk about some of the great resources that we've spun up in the meantime.
Amazing, thanks Josh, that was brilliant by the way. Again, thank you everybody for joining us today. I should tell you it's a record attendance, and it's far outstripped our wildest dreams about how many people attended. And thank you for all of your questions as well, which we'll come to in a minute. But first, I wanted to share a few of the resources we've developed for our community. After this session, of course, you'll receive an email with links to all of these, as well as some top-line information. So the first thing we'll go to is the Partner Discounts Hub. So in collaboration with our agency and tech partners, we've compiled a list of discounted services and offers for merchants. So the partners here range from full range service agencies, design and development agencies, to digital marketing agencies and tech solutions. We encourage you all to walk through this resource, and as you continue to expand your online presence. So a lot of great offers here, discounts till the end of June, and some extending till the end of the year. So we hope you take advantage of them. Next slide we're going to go to is Yotpo Learn. So at the end of May, we're launching Yotpo Learn. It's an educational series created exclusively for our community. We'll cover product specifics, practices, strategies, and advice from our experts. The first session is an introduction to mobile commerce and how we're uniquely innovating in SMS, as Josh covered earlier on. And we'll also cover why that's so important right now. We'll include a link to sign up and to the recap again at the end of this session. I don't know how many of you have enjoyed this already, but we're certainly seeing great responses to it already. We've developed a weekly AMA series with brand and technology experts. The AMA is live through our Instagram Live, so please feel free to sign up for reminders, join us, and ask questions. If you have any topics you want us to cover, please let us know. The series was developed to support and communicate with our community in real time. So topics are designed and determined by what you ask for. So please, we want to hear from you. So far, we've had some great talkers. We've had David Grimes, the CEO of Pour.com, Matt Kobach, who's a social media expert at the New York Stock Exchange, Phil Jackson from Something Digital, Rob Garth from Salesforce, Jay Hartenbach, the CEO of Medterra CBD, and Scott Perry from Jerome's Furniture. So really is a genuine who's who. The next resource I'll direct you to is the COVID-19 resources page, and we'd all recommend you take some time to view that. Here you can see and find out about all the initiatives and resources we've developed for our customers and our community. The content you'll see here is everything from strategies to interviews to infographics, and we'd advise you to walk through this, and we hope you'll find it useful. again, after the presentation, we'll be sending out a resources kit with all the information you need, as well as some additional highlights. And last, and I mean this literally by no means least, we'd always recommend you speak to your amazing CSMs. They have visibility and insight spanning across the industry, and they're genuinely here to help you. They genuinely care, they genuinely want to strategize with you, and they genuinely want to help in any way they can. So we'll get to all of your generous questions now. Hopefully we should have time to get through all of them. All right, first one's for me, not a softball at all. Okay, so when does Yotpo plan to reopen the London office? I think the short answer is we are open, we're just not in the physical office anymore. Most important to us is prioritizing the health and well-being of our team. That's the most important thing for us. While we can work from home and serve our customers and our community, we'll continue to do so. The last thing to say is, yeah, we'll proceed and get people back to the office, not just when it's safe to do so, but when people feel super comfortable coming back to the London office. And again, you can always reach us via the usual channels. The next one here is for you, Ophir. How do you think what we're seeing will impact Amazon long term?
I love this question. So, well, first of all, maybe worth a side note that Amazon has two major businesses, right? The Amazon Web Services and the e-commerce with a bunch of other stuff. So definitely on the Amazon Web Services, they're a huge gainer. The world is moving online into digital, and that creates tons of demand for servers, and they're going to make tons of money. So if the question was about, do you want to buy the Amazon stock, then for sure the answer is yes. If the question was about the e-commerce business, then the answer is, I think, more complicated. So for sure, Amazon are winners in a sense that demand for e-commerce is spiking, and even though they are not able to fulfill all the spike they had in demand, they are their sales have grown and will continue to grow, and in the short to mid-term they will do well. However, I do believe that that COVID is kind of a tipping point. Like if you look historically, the only big box retailers that were successful and growing market share more than the overall e-commerce business is Amazon and Walmart. Right? They've been growing more than average. All the big box retailers have been suffering, and then the long tail of smaller brands, particularly on the Shopify platform, but also on others, have been growing way faster than the average. And Amazon is kind of taking over the world of the day-to-day commodities, and those long tail brands are kind of taking over the rest, right? Wherever you can create a differentiated experience. And I think what's COVID is really accelerating is first, it's kind of changing the definition of what commodity is. And consumers really learn that there are different, unique, and differentiated experience for a bunch of stuff they haven't thought about it before. And now when they try it out, when we see it's not available on Amazon, they realize, hey, the experience of buying directly from a brand is so much superior, so much better that I'm going to continue this way. And I think that's a trend that's going to continue, and in the midterm and definitely long term, we'll see Amazon starting to hurt. Kind of wherever they lead is going to be in a more narrow and narrow range of products over time. And in particular, because of the technology trend of so many enablers of those smaller brands, right? Whether it's e-commerce platforms, whether it's logistics services, payment services, marketing technologies like Yotpo, it's leveling the playing field. It's becoming not as hard to build your own brand, and it's just becoming more attractive for a brand to sell off Amazon than on Amazon. So in the very long term, I do believe that Amazon will lose market shares, and the kind of long tail of brands will prevail and be successful.
Amazing, thank you. I think the other question is kind of semi-related. Do you think customers will continue with these new trends and behavior that we're seeing?
Yeah, the simple answer is yes. So I talked about it a little bit, that the trends that we see here, when you think about them, none of them are new, actually. They've all been here, they just got accelerated. I think Toby Lutke, the CEO of Shopify, really put it in like simple, crisp words as he usually does, and basically said, you know what COVID did? It brought 2025 to 2020. We basically jumped forward in the history of humanity 5 years ahead. Now we all kind of feel unprepared because customers' expectations are so much more demanding, and we're unprepared. And now we're kind of trying to catch up and rebuild our stores and our experiences and our service and everything but it's a jump. There is no way back from that, right? After 2025 comes 2026. We're never going to go back to 2021. So definitely, all these changes are here to last.
Love that, fascinating. I've got one for you, Josh, if you're okay. And as brick and mortar reopens, what concerns might shoppers have and should be aware of? Should they be aware of?
Sure. So this is a timely question. I moderated a panel last week with one of our agency partners, and the topic was offline and what is the future of offline. And so of course I think the straightforward answer is the main concern that shoppers will have as brick and mortar reopens is how do I continue to go back to doing the offline shopping that I'm accustomed to doing and that I love doing, while at the same time keeping myself and my family safe. And so if we believe that's the primary concern that shoppers will have, one thing is I think we can expect maybe the restoration of that foot traffic to be gradual, right? Consumers are going to need to gain a little bit more confidence in that experience and start to believe that these businesses that they like shopping from can keep them safe before they return in droves. And so I think a couple of interesting takeaways that I had from that were one, that some of these offline businesses are starting to get creative about how they can maybe use that foot traffic or how they can maybe use that space that they have in some new ways to try to, realizing that the foot traffic in a given store is probably not going to be as high for a while as it was pre-COVID. So one idea that I thought was pretty cool is one brand went to a bunch of their complementary brands, right? So I think they sold footwear, so maybe they talked to people who make, I don't know, t-shirts or other exercise gear or what have you, and they basically had this. They created this combined store in many ways, shapes, and forms. So they allowed some of their retail space to be open to other brands to become a little bit more cost conscious there or cost efficient. The other thing that I think we're really seeing, again, very purely driven by consumer demand, and yeah, I like Toby's quote about the future becoming the present very quickly, is I think the buy online and pick up in store experience is really accelerating, right? I think it used to be a bit of a nice to have. It used to be something that a few stores offered. In that same Shopify call that Ophir mentioned, I think someone from Shopify mentioned that 2% of the customers who use Shopify used some sort of buy online pickup in store feature pre-COVID, and in just a period of, I think it's 6 to 8 weeks, that increased to 26% of Shopify users. So right, very clearly driven by the consumer demand. Brands are now trying to get more creative with how they make use of these retail environments. And so I think as consumers are still a little bit wary of completely returning back to store, some of these things can be great ways to achieve a nice balance.
Thank you, Josh. That's great. So I'll close out by saying thanks very much to the panel. Thank you very much to all the organisers. Again, it was a record attendance, so we're incredibly grateful for everybody who supported us today. It's great. I'll end by saying just be kind to yourselves and hope you continue being kind to each other. I wish you all well. Thanks very much for joining us today. Take care.